Hello, everyone. My name is Rabbi Avraham Epstein. Thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be joining the team at JFS. I want to share with you a Dvar Torah that I think is appropriate for the start of a new year, the start of a new administration under the leadership of Mrs. Stenger, and the start of really a new experience for the students after going through COVID-19 shutdown last school year. So I want to share with you some thoughts I had. If you can see in front of you, there's a text here which I want us to go through together and analyze, and I'd love to hear um, a little bit of your input as well. Okay? This text that I'm about to show you will hopefully bring us to a greater understanding of what Jewish education really means and what it takes to do a good job of Jewish education and the emotions and the feelings that go into that. Okay, I think you'll come out of this inspired and enlightened. So the Talmud in Baba Metzia records a very interesting story where two rabbis, Rabbi Hanina and Rabbi Chia, are arguing about a matter of halacha. And as sometimes happens, often happens when two rabbis argue, they can't convince each other. And both sides are sticking to their guns. Have you ever seen that happen in an argument where nobody really gives in? I'm sure you have. You've seen that. So it gets to the point where each one is trying to say that they really should prevail in the argument and their point should win the day because they have unique authority. What's the authority? So let's look at number one there. You see where number one on your sheet. The Gemara relates, when Rabbi Hanina and Rabbi Chia would debate matters of Torah, Rabbi Hanina would say to Rabbi Chia, "You think you can debate with me? If the Torah were, God forbid, forgotten from the Jewish people, I could restore it with my powers of analysis and intellectual acumen." In other words, I'm so smart. Even if the Jews would forget the Torah, I could revive the Torah. I'm so brilliant. You should therefore agree to me. Rabbi Chia says back to him, "Nice try. But do you think you can argue with me? You cannot compare yourself to me because I am acting to ensure that the Torah will not be forgotten from the Jewish people." What's happening here? One rabbi is claiming that he's got the intellectual brilliance to restore Torah if it's forgotten. The other one is saying, perhaps, but I'm making sure it never happens to begin with. We don't need to rely on your intellectual brilliance. So which is better, intellectual brilliance or proactive building of education? It's a point of thought. Let's go on. Rabbi Chia wanted to show his friend what he meant when he said that he was acting to make sure the Torah would not be forgotten from the Jewish people. And he said, "You know what I do to make sure the Torah doesn't get forgotten, that Judaism lives on, that there's a Jewish future? You want to know what I do about it? I don't just have intellectual brilliance. I don't sit in the ivory tower. No. You see, when I go out to make sure the Torah is not forgotten, I go out into the fields and I literally plant flax seeds which will grow and produce flax plants, which I will then harvest. And I will make the flax into nets. I'll take those nets that I make myself, and I'll go hunt deer. I'll capture the deer, I'll slaughter the deer, and I'll feed the meat of the deer to orphans who need food. And then with the skins of those deer, I make parchment. Parchment for what? Parchment for Sifrei Torah. I write the 5 books of the Torah on them. I go to a city which does not have education, where there's no Jewish school, where there's no system for teaching Judaism to the young people. And I get 5 children. I recruit 5 children. I teach each child one of the books of the Torah. And then I teach 6 other children one section of Mishnah, the oral law. And then I tell them, okay, I've taught you. Now you teach each other. Moshe, you will teach Yaakov Sefer Breshit. Sarah, you will teach Rachel Sefer Shemot. Devorah, you will teach Asher Sefer Vayikra. And so forth until the children have a job, they have a mission. Now that they've mastered a section of the Torah, now their job is to pass it on to their classmates, to their colleagues, if you will. And I say to them, until I return, teach each other and read to each other. And that's how I act to make sure the Torah is not forgotten by the Jewish people. So let's stop for a moment. It's a remarkable story. Let's stop. Look at question number 2. I want you to discuss among yourselves. Read the question to yourself and then share with your friend. We'll do a think, pair, share for 30 seconds. I want you to go ahead and do that now with the person sitting next to you. So the question is, why was it necessary for Rabbi Chia to produce the raw materials for the education by himself? Couldn't he have just bought scrolls, bought chumashim, bought books of Mishnah and taught the children that way? No, Rabbi Chia wasn't content with that. He had to go plant seeds and then grow crops of flax. And then he had to go and he had to trap deer and write the books himself. Seems very laborious, very involved if you just want to teach children. So the Bali Musar, the classic explainers of our tradition, have said, you know what's going on here? Rabbi Chia knew that if he's going to make sure that Judaism continues for the next generation, he has to put his entire heart and soul into it. And there's not one thing that he can leave to others to take. He has to have such a drive, such a passion, such a l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, such a work ethic that he's willing to do every little detail himself and not leave it to others, so that the purity of motive and the siyata dishmaya, the heavenly assistance, will come down and bless his efforts so that they will remain permanent. And you also see something else about how to teach children from this passage. You see that we don't just want children to absorb and then fill out the tests and get the A on the report card. We want to make our children into teachers. We want to empower our children with the skills and the knowledge set so that they can go, even while they're still learning, they can go and teach somebody else. Mastery of learning and a sense of purpose and a sense of responsibility to pass it forward. What an empowering, what an inspiring thought that should be our goal. That should be our objective for this year and for the years to come. I thank you for listening. Let's all band together to work hard and to uncover every stone to make this the most successful year for these children in the history of JFS.